Hello friends, and welcome back to this program, Books of the Book. My name is David Rodriguez, and I'm so happy that you are able to take this time to join us in this Bible study. And if you have your Bibles, you are welcome to open them. Today we are on chapter 7, and we are studying the Gospel of John. And with us we have Dr. John Pauline. He is currently the Dean of Religion at Loma Linda University in Loma Linda, California. And welcome back, Dr. Pauline.
It's always good to spend time with you, Davey.
Same here. Now, you are now at Loma Linda, but before that, you were at Andrews University. Tell us what you did there.
Well, I was there for about 26 years, and I went there as a doctoral student, and fairly quickly they had me teaching a couple classes alongside, and as I finished the program, I stayed on and continued teaching.
Studying?
Continued teaching and studying.
Okay.
You do the one to do the other.
For 26 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You
That's
must
right.
have loved it there.
Well, it was a place that used to catch special snowfall and rainfall. If you get a cold north wind, it would go down the 500 miles of Lake Michigan and dump just on a small little area right at the bottom of the lake. And we were in the middle of that. So I remember once it snowed 28 consecutive days.
Wow.
For 28 days, you look out the window, there was never a time when there weren't snowflakes in the air.
Wow.
And you know, it was just piled over the head and so on.
How's the weather in Loma Linda compared to?
It's slightly better.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think it can be as high as 80 degrees Fahrenheit in winter, which is nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, we thank you for being with us in this Bible study. We are in chapter 7. Tell us the background of this chapter and what are we studying?
Actually, we're packaging chapters 7 and 8 because all of this is a scene in the temple. And the previous chapter, we were in Galilee. The chapter before that, we were in the temple in Jerusalem, or actually the Pool of Bethesda, nearby the temple. And now we are at the temple. It's the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's important to understand that the Jews had an annual setting of feast, just as many Christian churches do. You sort of annually, you celebrate Easter and Christmas and so on. Well, the Jews had Passover, and they had Pentecost, and they had the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles was the most popular feast of the year. If you could only go to one, this is the one that people usually went to. And it was in the fall of the year. It would usually be in September, October, somewhere in there. And it was very special because it focused on two special issues, water and light. Because actually it represented their experience in the wilderness. When the Israelites came out of Egypt, they spent 40 years in the wilderness, and the Feast of Tabernacles was a reminder that they lived in tents. So everybody would live in tents. They pitched tents all around Jerusalem. And if you stand on the back steps of the Temple Mount today and you look out there, you can see the hills where all of these tents would have been. So they made tents out of tree branches, and they would sleep in them. And the feast surrounded itself with water and light. The light was, there were big torches all over the temple, so even the night would be lit up like day, and that reminded them of the pillar of light, pillar of fire in the wilderness that brought them light at night, and the pillar of cloud that brought them shade and comfort by day. So they were remembering their experience in the wilderness. And water, of course, was very scarce in the wilderness. The Sinai Desert, in many places, there's not a blade of weed. I mean, it is really, really dry. And so they celebrated there whenever they came across water. Moses would strike the rock, water would come. They'd find springs, you see. So their experience in the wilderness is surrounded with water and light, and these became the central themes of this. And so as pilgrims, they come from all over the Roman world, and they spend a week in the temple. There was a main ceremony, and this ceremony was basically, they would take a pitcher, and the priests would march down from the temple. Have you ever been to Jerusalem?
I have actually.
Okay. One thing you realize, the old Temple Mount is still there. So this is one of those things you can actually picture, but it's extremely steep. And they went down from the temple down to the Kidron Valley. And there was usually just a little stream. It's only like a meter across at best. And they would catch water in that, and they would march back up, and they would be singing songs as they did. And then when they'd enter the inner part of the temple, there were 12 steps. And they would stop on each of these steps. I think it was 15 actually. Stop on each of these steps and sing one of the last 15 Psalms, Psalm 120, not the last, but 20 to 134. Those 15 Psalms there, and they'd sing one at every step. And then they would go into the inner part of the temple, and they would take this pitcher of water and a pitcher of wine, and they would pour them together into a sink that was at the base of the altar. Now, that water would drain in pipes and go all the way back to the Kidron River. Now, much of the summer, that river is actually pretty dry, and this would just peter out there. But if it were raining when they had this service, the rain would cause that water and wine to go all the way down to the Dead Sea. And if it was raining during the Feast of Tabernacles, they knew it was going to be a good year, because Palestine is fairly dry. It's sort of a semi-desert. And that means there's barely enough rainfall, even in good years. Now, why would water be so important then? Yeah, you need to know something about the climate. You see, the summer in Palestine is kind of like Southern California. It's the same kind of climate. It doesn't rain from, say, the 1st of May until like the 1st of October. It is dry. I mean, every day is blue sky, not a cloud in the sky. It can be quite hot at times. You can't grow stuff in the summer because you plant a crop, it doesn't rain, the crop will wither, it's gone. So you do your annual crops, you plant them in the fall when it starts raining, and that's what they call the early rain, would come in the fall. And then over the winter, the crops would grow, wheat and so on. It would grow other grains. And then in the spring, you would harvest. So it's winter wheat is what we would call it. Fruits, on the other hand, they would grow over the summer. Now, why would fruits be able to grow over the summer and grains cannot? Because the trees have deep roots. They go down and get water. Even when it's not raining, they can still get water further down. If the fruits grew over the winter, they would be killed by frost. It's just cold enough in winter sometimes that it would kill off the fruit. So the fruits grow over the summer, and they're harvested at the Feast of Tabernacles. The grains are planted at the time of the Feast of Tabernacles, and they're harvested in connection with the Passover. So the early and latter rain concepts are actually from fall to spring. The early rain is in the fall, and the latter rain is in the spring. So that aspect of Palestinian climate helps us understand why the Passover focuses on bread, unleavened bread. The Feast of Tabernacles, they're rejoicing in the fruits that are now available, you know, fresh grapes and apples and peaches and whatever else you would grow. So the Feast of Tabernacles is a very special time, a very popular time. People loved to go there. And I remember the first time I was in Israel, we visited a biblical landscape preserve where they were trying to restore the biblical landscape. And we were given a tour by a woman who was a Jewish New Testament scholar. I thought that was a very interesting combination. And she was a lot of fun. And she took us around and explained some of these things from the biblical context. But the one thing she said, I will never forget. She said, in Egypt, everything's watered by the Nile. In Turkey, everything is watered by the rain. There's plenty of rain. If God had placed his people in Egypt, they would be in danger of trusting the Nile. If God had placed his people in Turkey, they'd be in danger of trusting Mother Nature. So he placed his people in a place where you always have to look for heaven, for rain. And if heaven doesn't provide, you're not going to have enough. So the very landscape there taught them to trust in God, not to trust in their efforts. I thought that was a good point, and I appreciate it. God uses our circumstances to lead us to Him. And I think that was the message that she was giving. So, why don't we get into the text?
Sure.
In chapter 7, and I would point out to our viewers, there's way too much to cover in a half-hour program in chapters 7 and 8. And that's true of most of our programs here in the Gospel of John. It's a really big book. But we're going to touch on a few things, talk about them generally, and I hope that you can read these passages for yourself and fill in the details that we can't cover here. But in the very beginning of chapter 7, there's an issue between Jesus and his brothers. And the brothers want to go to the feast, and they want Jesus to go to the feast, and he says, no, I'm not going. And look at verse 6 in particular.
Then Jesus said to them, my time has not yet come, but your time is always ready.
Okay, they're ready to go. You know, they can do whatever they want, but Jesus, his time has not yet come because his time is governed by the Father. You see, the brothers then are tempting him to look away from the Father's timing in his life and to follow human reasoning in when he's going to go and what he's going to do when he gets there.
And his time referring to what?
Well, it's actually, the Greek word is hour. My hour has not yet come. Different translations will either translate as hour or as time. And that's the time of the cross. The word hour always is pointing to the cross, and Jesus says, my time, my hour has not yet come. You can do whatever you want any time, but I'm on a timetable.
Right.
I'm following God's timetable. Now here's an interesting piece of the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John doesn't describe the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, early in his ministry, Jesus goes into the desert, and the devil is tempting him there. And he tempts him on appetite, and he tempts him on power. You know, you want to rule the kingdoms of the world. He tempts him on show. Why don't you jump off the temple, and when the angels save you, everybody will say, wow, you know, he's the guy who flies in from heaven, you see. So in chapter 6, they try to make Jesus king. And in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's a temptation. If you want to rule the nations of the world, bow down to me. In chapter 6, he's the bread of life, in contrast to the earthly bread that we might have. Here, he's tempted by his brothers to go show off in Jerusalem so that everyone will believe that you are the Messiah. So the three temptations that Jesus had in the wilderness, in the Gospel of John, those are built right into everyday life. Once again, John is asking us to look for the presence of God, or look for the presence of opposition in the everyday aspects of life. The things that Jesus experienced at specific times in other places here are built into the ordinary features of life. So the Gospel of John is a spiritual gospel, as we've said before.
Yes.
And you can't just read the story, but have to try to see it in the light of deeper things.
Okay, well, Dr. Pauline, we're going to continue studying this particular chapter of the Gospel of John after this short break.